when we get down to brass tacks and you give me 5 minutes to walk you through it, your explanation literally is, I don't know. I can't really think through. I haven't thought through it that much. When you talk about women's autonomy to her body, that wouldn't just, like, wouldn't that also apply to a woman's right to do what she wants even after birth? For example, if a woman doesn't want to take care of a kid because her career is on the line now, and so even after the kid is born, that would impede her bodily autonomy to go out and do what she wants, go date who she wants, sleep with who she wants, bring a man in that she wants, go to work how she wants. Wouldn't that also be impeding her autonomy in that sense?
Yeah, why is that?
And that would be, I would say that's a justified reason to impede someone's bodily autonomy. If there's a baby outside the womb, they've already agreed they've given birth to this child, right? And they're raising it. They can always put it for adoption. There is a way out, right? There is, and so but, even after it's born, there's still a way to yield this responsibility. But I think that should be allowed. But regardless, she is, yes, I agree. If she starts neglecting the child and lets them starve or something, like, yeah.
But like, but then it seems that there wouldn't be a limiting principle to what you're suggesting once we agree that that baby is a human life, correct?
The limiting principle is that it's growing inside of her, Rob. It's growing inside of her. That's the limiting thing.
But it doesn't matter because you haven't.
It doesn't matter to you. It matters to me.
Listen, Ryan, stop spurging out. It's not a good look for you.
I'm sorry. I've just been having this conversation all night.
You're not good in the best of days, let alone when you're spurging out. So
I think I'm doing just fine, Rob.
You haven't given a limiting principle as to why, if it affects a woman's bodily autonomy, what the difference is between the threshold for why it's growing inside her means something outside the scope of even a 1-day-old baby that's outside of her could impede her bodily autonomy even more.
Yeah, again, it might just be a difference in values. I believe that if somebody's growing a human inside of them, and this is just my values. We're almost getting down to like axiomatic stuff. Like I believe that I would be horrified if I was growing someone inside me and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go through that process. And somebody said, there's this process, like you can do something to get rid of it, but we're actually banning that procedure because we actually think you should have to go through that. That's not horrifying to me. I don't want to live in that world. If you can be okay with that world, this is what we disagree on. It's fundamental values. And that's fine. That's fine.
If I can, right? Like you haven't given a distinction as to why, other than something growing inside you. What is it exactly about something growing inside you that makes it? For example, if I could say that a woman could have a baby growing inside her, be 8 months pregnant, and still basically do everything she wants, regardless if she eventually wants that baby or not. But the day that that baby's born, because now the level of care that she has to offer that baby is different. Now it's actually affecting her bodily autonomy more the day after it's born. You haven't given me the principle as to why it's okay for her to not care. Her bodily autonomy outweighs the child's when it's in her belly, but it doesn't the day after it's born. You just say
you were giving me a hypothetical scenario where at 8 months pregnant, there's nothing changing about this woman's day-to-day life from when she was not 8 months pregnant.
Well, no, that's not exactly. But there's nothing changes that she can't live with. She thinks that things have to change more the day after.
Can you clarify what you meant by the 8 months? Like nothing.
Yes. For example, let's say that there's a woman who doesn't drink, doesn't smoke weed. That 8 months pregnant can continue to go to her job unimpeded. But the day she has that baby, she doesn't have childcare, and now she can't go to work. And she values going to work above everything else. So her bodily autonomy is limited more the day after the baby's born than when she was 8 months pregnant.
And what's the question?
So the question is, you haven't given me a principle why, if it's just the threshold of violating a woman's bodily autonomy, and in that situation, we can see that that woman has her bodily autonomy violated more after the baby's out. Why can you say it's okay to terminate the life when it's inside the baby? What is it arbitrarily about being inside?
So I don't think it's arbitrary. You keep calling. So you guys have been playing this game all night. I know, Robbie, you just got here, so you only just started playing this game.
What is it?
But I'm sure you played it before. But you guys are playing this game where you assert that it's not that it's some sort of special pleading fallacy or something to say that it's different. That's a different scenario when a baby is literally inside someone and that they are having the moral agency to decide not to keep growing that child. You're like, what's so special about that? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. That's a very unique scenario. I can't find any other thing in reality that's comparable to growing a child inside of you. I'm not going to find some perfect symmetry to match this to.
But I know you're not answering his question. You're just saying it's unique. You're not like
I agree. I agree, and I'm saying I don't know. I don't. My grounding doesn't go further than this. I don't know what to tell you.
It's because you're
also just preference.
Angry man's trying to get
yes, it is, and just like your preference is to make her have that baby. Yes.
Okay. I don't know if this is Ryan's argument or not, but the typical logic behind this is that when the baby's inside of her, they're associating the baby as being her. Mm-hmm. And then when the baby's not inside of her, now all of a sudden it's not her.
But that's not going to help.
I can consider them two independent moral agents, and that's still value hers over it.
And that's what Ryan's putting the value that he puts, because like what this will come down to is once we agree, see if you'll concede this. Even if I could prove to you that that is a human life, for example, I guess I'll just ask you: a woman's 9
It's
months.
a human life. the whole
completed
time.
it
Yeah,
is.
I think
Okay.
it's a human life.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 9 months pregnant, woman's 9 months pregnant. Can she decide to terminate that baby right then?
He's already
So
said
I
yes.
answered
it
this
should be
earlier,
Say-
and just to be clear, I will say yes, but I want to clarify that I think it would be a worse world if we prevent women who if we have laws that end up preventing women who absolutely need an abortion at 9 months just because some hypothetical woman somewhere whom I might think is a terrible person decides to opt into an abortion because she thinks it's fun or whatever. I don't think this woman exists, but I know there are women who do have medical risks at 9 months, and I would not want to override that real possibility because of some hypothetical woman that you guys are making.
But again, this isn't about like sort of the actual woman. It's about getting to our like philosophical premise and what our code of morality is. The only thing you've given as a value, you've said, well, there's things other than the woman's bodily autonomy, but the only value you've given to justify ending a human life is this woman's bodily autonomy. So when I get you to admit there are situations where the woman, an individual woman, would say, my bodily autonomy is violated more by this baby after it's born than before it was born, you can't give me a rationale based on your own interpretation why that woman should not be allowed to terminate that baby after it's born. If it's just about the bodily autonomy, you can't.
Yeah, but I keep saying it's not just. It's only about the bodily autonomy because it's growing inside of her, right?
But that's
for bodily autonomy not to yield her organs to the child.
Okay, but explain to me, if a woman said, but it's more my bodily autonomy, it's affecting me now because it's outside of my body than inside. Explain.
Give it up for adoption then. I don't care. Give it up for adoption.
Well, so then
He's
what
just
if we
gonna
said,
default the preference.
okay, two things. One, what if she says,
So are you. You guys are all doing that too. You just outsource it to whatever bullshit God or
that's
whatever.
not what, that's not, again, I haven't mentioned God.
You might not be doing that. That's what
Okay,
ET's doing.
but again, we get to this position,
I
right?
didn't
Like,
know that
if
either.
it,
You know, I wanted to ask you about something specific, right? So, in that eighth month, the final month, right? That woman actually becomes damn near incapacitated, right? And so, because of that, she's actually not doing much of anything, and there's actually someone else taking care of her and the baby. In fact, when you look at that situation, the morality is that if that other person is not only taking care of her, but also taking care of the baby, then isn't it their decision? Isn't it their decision of bodily autonomy? Isn't it them who's actually taking care of the baby and not her if she's incapacitated?
He's not going to be able to process that.
So wait, I'm sorry. I think I missed the first half of that. You're saying Can you be more? Can you explain it again?
No
I'm
problem.
sorry. I was trying to follow, but yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So during the last month, actually it's like the last trimester, but primarily that last month, she damn near becomes incapacitated, where she really can't do much of anything. Especially that last week, she ain't doing shit except for shitting. So because of that, there's somebody else taking care of not only her, but also the baby. Right? Now that person has autonomy not only over her, but also the baby. Isn't it them who has that autonomy, not her?
At the 8 month point, like, yeah, I mean, technically, like if some doctor is taking care of them, like they could resign and let someone else take over.
No, I'm not talking about the doctor. I'm talking about at home while she's not at the hospital during that last month. While she's at home, there's somebody else who comes and brings her food and cleans her ass. Who is that?
Clay.
I guess it could be a husband or house taker or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but the problem is he's not going to process that because we don't really, as a society, give a shit about men's bodily autonomy. So the thing is, what he's trying to say to you, Ryan, is if the guy is there and she's incapacitated because she's in the final stage and he has to take care of her and by extension the baby as well, isn't that encroaching on his bodily autonomy? Isn't
and if he doesn't want to do that, he can just take her to the hospital, right?
the problem is,
Hey Ryan, real quick. Wait, so you said that the standard is lending the mother is lending her organs to the baby. So if somebody donates one of their organs to somebody who needs them in order to save their life, do they then have the choice to end that person's life whenever they see fit?
Let's do a better example. Let's say that there's a child who is born and then they need a kidney or something, and the mother is like the perfect match. Do you think the mother is obligated to give that child her kidney?
No, what I'm saying is if the mother does give the
So we
child her
agree.
no, hold up. But if the mother does give the child her kidney, does she have the right to then end their life?
Of course not.
But that's exactly the argument you're making in this situation.
No, it's not, because
Yes,
like
it is.
once you've had your kidney extracted and given to someone, like you're not going to grab your kidney back from them and put it back in. Like it's like
No.
giving birth and then saying you're going to shove them back in and
Like
abort
the
them
super chat just said, the mother consented to giving her organs when she let the dude dump his load. Again, like I told you, you would be making a much more honest.
Possibility of getting pregnant, and in my worldview, that doesn't mean consent to that whole pregnancy. You might you might have some value. Right? Means that if you take cum in your pussy, you have to be pregnant for 9 months. I don't put that on people. That's up to you, dude.
No, it's
I think that
about when you're allowed to kill someone.
I think that what's being lost here is that, right, when you make the claim that your concessions here are absolutely astonishing. You're conceding that it's a human life, and you're conceding that you are for the murder of a human life, that there are things that basically are tantamount to convenience. A woman's bodily autonomy, she finds it inconvenient. She doesn't want, for some reason, it's not her preference to have this baby. Therefore, she's justified in taking the life, a murder of a child, right?
Yes, you're just moral grandstanding, though.
It has nothing to do with moral grandstanding. Like anytime that you say that we should be allowed to take an innocent life, not a life that's done something to justify, like through their free will, harming you, the impetus is on you.
Irrelevant.
It is not irrelevant. The impetus is on you. Okay,
yeah, it might be to you, but I'm not concerned. I don't view it as punishing the child.
Okay,
right? I'm not trying to punish them.
I think we should murder all lefties. You're all fucking scumbags.
I believe you. Maybe you do. I don't know.
Please, please. Right? So, right, who's to say? You're just moral grandstanding if you disagree, right? I think you're a drain.
You can say that. I mean, I think most people
you're
would
loading
not
on the
view
word
it that way.
murder.
I mean, to some degree, I am. I mean, I'm saying this is my moral value is you not murdering me for being a leftist. That's fine. Yeah.
But you haven't given any differentiation, right? You've said all you're saying is, well, when it's inside you, it's different. But you can't. You're like, well, it's not just. You're saying that, but you're not articulating why. You're just
the
saying,
difference is that it's inside you. I don't know. I don't know how else. I don't know how else to articulate. If you don't view that as a difference, that's not my fault. Like I can't get inside your brain and transform you to understand that.
Shut the fuck up and let me.
Shut the fuck up, Rob. No, you shut the fuck up, bitch. No, I won't. I won't shut the fuck up.
Yeah, so you're going to let me finish the point one way or another.
Yeah, I am.
You're not giving any differentiation other than saying it's different. You aren't talking about why it's materially different. The only thing you've given as to why it's materially different is because it violates a woman's autonomy.
Growing inside of her.
But what about growing inside? What about growing inside? What is the negative of growing inside?
If somebody is growing inside of somebody, I value that person's autonomy to decide not to do that anymore. It's a fundamental value claim. I can't ground it anymore. I can't outsource to some fancy book or whatever. I just believe that in my heart of hearts. That is axiomatic to me. That sounds like a horrifying thing to impose on someone against their will, and I don't want to do that.
It's not axiomatic.
It's literally just ground floor disagreement.
It's not axiomatic because we would have to say, what is the value that leads to ultimately? What is the ultimate value that leads to? So you would have to say that. You would have to say bodily autonomy. You have the right to do what you want with your body.
Bodily autonomy in some cases, yes. Bodily autonomy is a value. I can override bodily autonomy in some cases. So.
Okay, so then other than bodily autonomy, what is it? Give me the value.
What do you mean other than bodily?
Other than bodily autonomy, we're saying, right? There's stages that we're saying, right? That's like you have the right to take an innocent life. You agree with that? You're saying we have the right to take this innocent life. Correct?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so you're saying the reason is because it's growing inside the woman. And I'm like, okay, but what is the value that ultimately we're saying? If you had to explain, because we would say bodily autonomy, and one of the biggest violations of bodily autonomy is something is growing inside you. But the ultimate value is that is bodily autonomy, which is why we're allowed to extinguish that life. You're saying, no, it's not just bodily autonomy, it's something else. What is that something else?
I think it is, it is bodily autonomy, but what I'm saying is the other point when people were bringing up there was a question about bodily autonomy being my ultimate value, but I would override bodily autonomy in some cases, right? That's what I was arguing about. That's why bodily autonomy kept going up earlier. So in terms of it being, I think it might be bodily autonomy. I don't know what other ground floor thing I could point to. I don't know if I have one.
But this is how
I'm willing to let that be the ground floor. Sure.
This is how we test it. For example, if I say stand your ground laws, and you're like, well, what is that? Because they're in your home. You're like, yeah, but why does that give you the right? Because they're in your home. Do you understand the problem with that? You'd be like, you need to have a value set that goes with in your more than just in your home. Okay, they're in your home, so that means what?
They're in your home and they might be a risk to you. So if that's what you're saying, then the child also might be a risk. Yeah.
So it requires,
sure, that's an entailment of them growing inside you. They might be a risk to you.
It retires more of a value. So here's the problem.
Sure,
the only thing you could give me is bodily autonomy, but you've already conceded that there are situations outside of the birth, right? Once the child's already born, that could reasonably affect the woman's bodily autonomy more. Why shouldn't that woman, based on your same metric, be allowed to extinguish that child then?
Because once the baby's outside the womb, there's better solutions like that we can.
Okay,
deal with,
so
like,
a woman
adopt
7 months pregnant, right? You could force her to have a C-section. Would you recommend that?
Probably not.
Oh, so there's other options. We could force her to have a C-section and put the baby. Why would a woman not go with that option, by the way?
I'm not sure.
But can I give you a hypothetical? Because she'd say, I don't want my progeny to be out there, right? I would rather not have this thought in my head that there's a baby out there that's mine that I'm not associated. So I'd rather it just be. Do you think that's a reasonable belief that a woman could have?
So it sounds like what she would probably be in that case. She would probably be thinking, I don't want to go through a C-section and deal with that, right?
Okay, but forget about the C-section portion, because to have an abortion, it's also an intrusive operation.
I mean, not nearly as much as a C-section.
Okay, nonetheless, right? You're admitting that part of that rationale could be, I just don't want this baby out there because it would psychologically negatively burden me?
I guess potentially, sure.
Okay, wouldn't adoption do the same thing once the child's born? Couldn't a woman reasonably say the same thing?
Yeah, she might. I don't care.
Okay, so then once more, we're back to the same bodily autonomy argument. So you just say, well, there's better options. When the child's 1 day old.
Once it's born, there's no need for an abortion. Is what I'm. If we're arguing at abortion and we're saying, why can't you abort it after it's out? I'm like, well, my whole point this whole time has been that it's growing inside of her.
But no, wait, there's no need for an abortion if the child's 7 months in the baby. There's no need for abortion. There's other procedures. Your argument could be, but that woman might not like that procedure. She could find it more invasive, or it could still be psychologically damaging. Same could be true of forcing a woman or having a woman give up a baby for adoption. If she says, this baby's 1 year old, it doesn't have a personality, biologically, it's the exact same basically as it was the day before when it was still in my belly, I want the baby to be ended. What's the limiting principle for why she shouldn't be able to say that? If she could make the case, today, this baby being alive is infringing more on my bodily autonomy today than it was yesterday. Why shouldn't she be allowed to terminate that baby?
I'm not sure if I have one, but I just don't think this is a really a very common realistic scenario.
I'll say,
I don't know.
It is common. It is common realistic. I think I've already.
Okay, I mean you can assert that, but I just don't. I haven't seen any evidence.
I've already outlined the case why it could affect a woman's bodily autonomy more to have an infant than to have a baby in her stomach. You haven't disagreed, that's,
yeah, but I just said she could give it up for adoption without having an abortion or whatever.
You could have a C-section without having to terminate when it comes to 7
Yeah, but do you agree that C-section is more invasive than adoption?
It depends on the way you look at it, right?
Are you kidding me?
It would still, hold on, pardon me, Rob. It would still satisfy the issue without killing someone.
This is the point that I want to make. I can't stay here all night, so I just want to make this point. Ryan, it's fucking grotesque that you're literally advocating for the fucking murder of a fucking innocent child. And when I ask you, when we get down to brass tacks and you give me 5 minutes to walk you through it, your explanation literally is, I don't know, I can't really think through, I haven't thought through it that much. If I'm going to advocate for the killing of an innocent person, I'm damn well going to have thought through all the scenarios. But you didn't.
Yeah. So when hang on. So now again, you're moral grandstanding right now. So let me respond. You're saying I haven't thought through it. What I'm telling you is I've thought through it a lot, and what I've come to is this moral ground, where I don't know how to go deeper than this, right? And you haven't offered me a way to go deeper than it, right? And I want to tell you, no one has. I don't have a way to go deeper than this. Maybe someone can recommend me some good philosophy. Why do you guys all have to talk over every time I start speaking? If you can recommend me some good philosophy books to help me figure out what my values are here, I'm just telling you these are my moral preferences. I know you have moral preferences about whatever else. We all have moral preferences. I don't know what to tell you. These are my moral preferences. I'm communicating them to you. You don't like them, and that's fine. You don't have to like my moral preferences. I'm just telling you what they are.
Real quick.
Please, everyone at once, please.
Hold on. Go ahead, Rob. Rob.
You're making the affirmative claim to extinguish an innocent life. Right. And so when you say, well, I thought through this as best I can, if you have other philosophy, here's the philosophy I'll give you. Before you recommend taking an innocent life, right, you should have to have the reasons why that affirmative is necessary. You don't.
Yeah, and I think I have plenty.
Please stop it. So then that would mean
stop talking down to me like this. Like, and I'm going to interrupt you if you're being a bitch about it.
Ryan, you talk down to everyone. Stop it. Ryan, blah, my preferences, blah. All right,
yes.
back to you.
So I'm honest. Hey, let me respond to the super chat. I'm honest that these are my preferences. A lot of people will come on these panels and they'll tell you, no, we've outsourced our preferences. We actually prefer to follow this different set of moral values, and that's their preference, but they won't acknowledge that. They'll act like it's some universal, ethereal, timeless bullshit, but they're just lying to you, or they don't understand what they're saying.
The reason why you're so emotional.
Please, everyone at once.
Brian, the reason why you can't go any deeper with that logic is because your logic is flawed. If you're number one, you're pushing the agenda or the argument of the woman's bodily autonomy, but you're completely ignoring the bodily autonomy of the life that's growing inside of her.
No, I'm not.
You absolutely are, because if she has,
I literally just said it overrides it. I value it in other contexts. Someone gave me the example of somebody poisoning a mother who wants to have their child, and I said that person's committing a crime because she and that child want to live, and I don't value his right to poison them over both of their lives.
Okay, well, here's the thing: you're arguing the bodily autonomy of the woman. And it's like, okay, well, the woman has the right because it's her body, it's her body, right? The baby inside doesn't have a right to anything, that there's no bodily autonomy there.
There is. It just is superseded by the person that they're growing inside of.
If I can't run real quick, because I got to go and I'm going to finish my line of thought here, right? The difference is, like, you say that I'm talking down to you. I want you to just think about this for a second. Say that I come in here and I say, hey, when it comes to lives that aren't humans, like those of animals, we as humans are allowed to use those to benefit our lives. So through, eating meat or using animals to help plow fields and stuff. You don't think that's a grotesque belief, do you, Ryan? Just real quick, yes or no.
But I am sympathetic to some vegan arguments.
Fair enough, right?
I eat meat.
Okay, so if I then say, and by the way, I've researched these phrenologists, and I think black people are less than human. And so therefore, I think that I could exterminate black people. And you would say, whoa. And I'd say, but Ryan, you already agreed with my philosophical underpinning that if something's less than human, it's okay for humans to kill them or utilize them as they see fit. So we could have slavery, or we could just murder black people. And you would say, Rob, but wait a minute. What is it about black people uniquely? Let's get to the philosophical underpinning why you think that. And my response to you would be, you're talking down to me. Fuck you. I'm going to interrupt. You're talking down to me. You see how ridiculous that sounds?
Well, I would just say phrenology has been debunked by every reasonable scientific entity.
It doesn't matter that phrenology's been
there's no. I don't see any good reason to believe. I do see good reason to believe that babies are growing inside of women. I don't see good reason to believe that black people are a different species than
that.
No
one.
But again, it doesn't answer.
Good reason to believe we shouldn't kill innocent people.
Respond real quick, right? But again, what matters is not your appeal to authority. What matters is we went through your own philosophical underpinnings, and you don't have an answer. So much so that you said, "I don't know. I can't answer this. Can someone give me a better philosophy?" Just like
I gave you. Hang on. No, fuck you. I gave an answer.
Ryan,
I said, you don't like my answer. If you think there's a deeper answer that you want me to have, then offer me something. I'm giving you my answer.
Finish the point, Ryan. And similarly, let's assume you didn't know about the history of phrenology. If you just heard this and you were like, dude, let me just logically walk you through how fucked up it is to say black people aren't human, right? And if I just said, I haven't gone deeper in the philosophy, I haven't, but if someone has a different philosophy, other than that, you're just morally grandstanding. That's what you're doing. You're suggesting killing innocent lives, and you haven't even thought through these questions. It took me 5 minutes in a one-on-one conversation to prove it. Pretty pathetic. Yeah.